Uh, I've been deeply thinking about this issue for some time, and one of the, thank you, most recent books that I read has engaged me in this area. The name of the book is The Five Minds for the Future, and I think anybody who's concerned with the future of the industry is an absolute must-read. This is a book by a man called Howard Gardner, who's a Harvard psychologist. And Howard Gardner has written 20 books on issues like this, and has 21 PhDs to his credit, 21 honorary doctorates to his credit. So absolute great thinker. And he's basically saying in this book, Five Minds of the Future, is we require not just one mental capacity, but 5 distinct mental capacities to lead ourselves into the future, to build great companies. He says that the 5 minds for the future are, first of all, the mind of the discipline. And what he means by discipline is not discipline as in the indisciplined context, but he says that people who will actually dominate the world will have to tightly belong to a particular discipline to begin with. And Harvard has done a study through empirical observation. They've found out it takes 10 years to master any single discipline. You may be excellent in your work, but to be a great doctor, to be a great cop, to be a great software engineer, to be a great testing engineer, to be a great BPO lead, it takes 10 years of work. So it's very important that you belong to a discipline, stand for a discipline. If you do not, then you will have to take instructions from other people. So for you to give instructions to anybody, you need to belong to a discipline. Second is, while that is true, Gardner says that in future all problems by nature would require multidisciplinary treatment. So while you are focusing on one discipline and learning one discipline, we'll talk about innovation in a little while, but all innovation will require a multidisciplinary approach. So how do you do it? Which basically means that you need to learn the mind of synthesis. So first you need the mind of the discipline, second you need the mind of the synthesis, which we are really not good at. If you look at one single drawback in most engineers joining the industry today, you ask them to express a point of view on any subject, ask them to ask questions, and they flounder. It is because we do not encourage synthesizing capability in the educational system. The third thing he's talking about is the creative mind. That again is very important, because all innovation is not left brain activity, it is creative activity. And as far as creativity is concerned, he goes fairly deep into it, and he explains how actually companies cannot become creative. It is individuals who are creative. So companies have to find ways in which they can breed creativity. But the fact of the matter is, in all societies, creative people are persecuted. From the beginning of history, even today. So you have people like Hussein who cannot live in Bombay. Okay. So even in our midst today, if you are creative, know that you will be persecuted. So management's job is not to actually protect creative people who the rest of the organization is actually designed to persecute. So the issue is, how do you build organizations where creativity is tolerated, or creative streaks are cultivated and tolerated? The fourth thing he talks about is we need not only the mind of the discipline and synthesis and mind of creativity, we require the mind of what he calls the respectful mind. Now, when all problems by nature are multidisciplinary, basically all complex problems will have to be solved by different experts sitting together, and different experts, because they are experts in their own areas, do not see eye to eye with each other. So typically, if you look at a software project, most failed projects fail because the software engineer did not understand what the UI lead was doing. The UI lead has no clue what the business analyst was doing. So how do you build respectfulness as a professional capability? The last thing he talks about is very important for the software industry in India, which has got a mooring on our future ambitions, and that is the ethical mind. Now, he defines ethics as something very simple. Ethics is not about, do good and be good. His concept of ethics is that you know, when you deal with a professional, ethics is about certification of completion. When a doctor operates upon my child, I don't have to worry about whether the doctor is leaving behind something while stitching up the child. Or when the anesthetist is doing his job, there is no SQA team behind the anesthesia guy, okay, to figure out that, you know, right amount of anesthesia is going out. And there is no margin of error there. Now, when you look at a carpenter and a plumber, there is a certain visible, clear way of knowing that there is completion. I think we do not understand what it means to do something completely, as much as the future would require. So the key question is, if these are the 5 minds of the future required to take on the world, are we incorporating those in our training and development? So when the BTech guy, who we are making job offers in the 3rd year of college, comes in to the front door of every which company, we are training them in Java and C++, 2 different, you know, streams are there. And after 3 months, the chairman of the company is worried about billability. Okay. So different companies are devising different ways of either making them billable or to have them posted as training someplace, do this and do that. But point of the matter is that if at the entry level we are not making these kids eat a different breakfast, 5 years from now we have basically produced an anthill. So I think the time has come where the industry needs to not only continue its focus on building engineers and technically savvy people, but we have to now change the curriculum. We cannot go and change the academic curriculum overnight. It will be horrendous to try to actually change AICTE, and many of those people will not even understand what Howard Gardner is talking about. But the industry can, and it's a survival issue for the industry, which probably links, Ganesh, back to the 20% PAT question, that maybe, you know, you need not just, you know, try to churn these people out in 90 days of training. Maybe we need to train them for 180 days. But we have to give them a different breakfast. The breed of people who have brought the industry to where it is will not be the breed of people who will be able to say that, you know, 5 years from now, we are relevant in the world as an industry.
Jerry, I'd like you to comment on that as well, and as well as if you can just look at this question, which is, there is a perceptible decline in research output in this country. In fact, the number of PhDs are dwindling. So any comments on that and the training generic issue?
No, I think this is something that it's interesting because Mr. Kohli, who is, you know, the doyen of the industry and who thinks a lot about this, 2 years ago when we were talking, he kind of almost was in a very, very sad mood, and he said, you know, Jerry, this year there are going to be more PhDs in Sanskrit in the US than in India.